Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined as always by Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak. We are going to break down the entire Week 13 slate. It's a smaller slate this week, even though we're 2/3 of the way through the season. The NFL has decided 6 teams must have their bye week now. So only 12 games if you do not include the Thursday night game, which we are not talking about. We talked about earlier this week. We will be talking about the Cardinals at the Steelers, the new look Pittsburgh offense, the 49ers, of course, at the Eagles, in the game of the week. The Dolphins at the Commanders in a game we hope is a sneaky shootout. We hope that we hope it's a shootout. We hope that the Commanders, though, just aren't completely collapsing as it appeared they might be on Thanksgiving Day against the Dallas Cowboys. The Chiefs at the Packers. Every game we're going to go into in great detail. But first, we're usually all football on the show. Sometimes we're some laughs. Mm-hmm. We try not to get into each other's personal lives. But, Denny, I'm sorry to bring up something from your personal life, but you're a 3-egg guy, huh? I actually agree with you. I hear you've been debating what is the proper amount of eggs to eat with your other podcast partner, Mr. JJ Zacharias, and it's been eliciting fierce debate. I did a Reddit Ask Me Anything on Thursday, and I got a question about it. And what is going on with the egg wars between you and JJ?
Look, JJ is a big, tough man, first and foremost, and he needs 6 eggs to fill his tummy. I don't need 6 eggs personally. I need 3 at most. And I feel like 6 is too much. I don't know. I mean, unless you're trying to put on weight to make the varsity team, I just feel like 6 is excessive.
I said I read it. Unless you're trying,
they sell them in groups of 12, and you would think that it would last you more than 2 meals if they're selling you in that group size. But man, 6 is.
So if you're trying to make the 1984 East German Summer Olympic team, you might need to be eating 6 eggs at least with every meal. That's just like a starter portion.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, how many javelins is JJ throwing a day? Because I do think that would make 6 sound more reasonable depending on the answer.
And another thing is that JJ, I don't know about javelin throwing, but he's a very health conscious guy, right? And so
he's never had more than 1 almond, for instance.
Right. He's pounding these eggs, and people online are saying, JJ, the eggs they're no good. They're no good for you, man. You gotta stop. Which is ridiculous because of all the things to point out. I think eggs are on the okay side.
No. JJ's cholesterol is like taking a drag on a cigarette. Man, please stop. Too much. The LDL. It's way too friggin' high, man.
But hey, you know what though? JJ exercises a lot. Maybe that leads you to a world where you're eating 6 eggs at a time. I mean, he'll casually be like, "Yeah, I ran 10 miles today," and I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Denny will quite.
I think that's where the disconnect comes in, because Denny, I don't think I've left your house in months, so that would create a very distinct difference in your lifestyles as far as eating is concerned.
No, Denny. Remember, he tries to hide. He goes golfing every day.
Easy.
Every day.
I ran, guys. I ran today. Okay, like a mile, and I was like, I look like I was like Kellen Winslow at the end of that triple overtime game against the Dolphins.
Kellen Winslow Senior. We must.
Kellen Winslow Senior. Right, like being carried off the field. That was me after a mile, and JJ's like, I ran 10 miles. What
I will say,
doesn't everybody?
I'm a 2-egger, but if I'm really hungry, then I go up to 3. I mean, 4, you just call the police immediately.
That's right.
Eggs are the wonder food, by the way. I'm a big egg fan. We must move on, though, to the Arizona Cardinals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The blaming Canada and loving it Steelers are 5.5-point home favorites against the Cardinals. I'm glad Kyle liked that. Against their Cardinals team, whose post-Kyler Murray return high. I can't read this. The Cardinals, they were riding high after Kyler Murray return. But it's kind of wearing off, Denny. There's a lot to talk about with Arizona, but we have to begin with Pittsburgh. What do you think were the most telling moments from their Week 12 approach? What is going to be transferable? What was maybe a 1-game fluke? What do you think is for real with Matt Canada out the door in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, well, first of all, The Athletic had a really good piece. I linked to it in my regression files about what exactly changed in the Pittsburgh offense in the post-Matt Canada first game without Matt Canada, I should say. And really, it comes down to 2 things, pushing the ball further downfield consistently and exploring what we call in the business the, quote, middle of the field. It is a very effective.
It's an industry term, but yeah.
Right. And you can look it up. You can Google it. Pause the podcast if you need to. But
The Moff. The boys call it the Moff.
yeah, the MOF. Right. And the MOF, folks. The Steelers have acknowledged and explored the MOF, and it worked wonders for moving the ball. This is what all the good teams do these days. The Niners, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, they hammer the MOF. And the Steelers, we're not doing that at all. Like not even a little bit before Matt Canada was fired. They started to do that. We saw Kenny Pickett's ADOT and average yards per attempt skyrocket compared to recent weeks. It's all very good for everybody in this offense.
So you think that maybe they were playing a very, very basically collapsed Bengals defense last week, but you do think there's legitimate reason for hope? Because I do. I don't know. I mean, it could be statistical variance, randomness, but pretty insane that the last time they had gained 400 yards was the final game before they hired Matt Canada, and then they immediately reached 400 yards the first game.
It actually doesn't sound real to me.
No, it doesn't. It seems like a bit of an indictment, I believe is what you would call it. So I agree with your reasons for optimism, especially because this is like a momentum building matchup. Arizona has an awful defense, and maybe it'll be a 2-game island that actually isn't predictive. I mean, the Steelers in their Matt Canada mold weren't even taking advantage of good matchups. They weren't gaining any yards, scoring any point. Kenny Pickett, of course, goes without saying, still did not throw a touchdown last week. He will never quote.
Let's not get carried away. Let's not get carried away. All right.
Kyle, do you have any follow-up thoughts on the Steelers? Do you agree with Denny's fairly rosy assessment? Because I do.
Yeah, I mean, the only sort of drawback for me on the offense, or at least the one player who I don't think is going to be benefited a ton by this, is George Pickens, who, like, we saw, target share, targets per out run didn't change much at all in this past game. That's because I think, like, he just is who he is. He is a outside boundary jump ball outside guy who Kenny Pickett doesn't want to throw to. And there's no scheming right now, at least, that's going to change that. Maybe it's something they can change in the offseason, but I do think just he is so ingrained in who he is at this point that player has like spike week potential, but they're going to be so few and far between that I think is really good for Freiermuth and Deontay Johnson, probably even for the pass catching results of the running backs. I think Pickens is probably the one player who this moves the needle least for me.
Yeah, just because I don't know what could really move the needle for George Pickens with Kenny Pickett. And it's maybe Kenny Pickett could be reborn. That's going to be like an entire offseason project, not just there's some things they can change in season and that they have changed. I agree with that assessment. That so the bigger stuff might have to come in the offseason. Yeah. Kyler, Denny, you have a final thought there?
The middle of the field stuff primarily benefited Pat Freiermuth, obviously, 120 some yards, led the team in all receiving categories. I will say, though, Freiermuth didn't have the best route participation rate. I think it was around 60%, 65%. So he got away with it a little bit. I just wanted to mention that. He's in the regression files in the negative area.
I'll say real quick. So are you not point chasing with Pat Freiermuth this week? Because I'm getting a lot of questions about him. Understand?
Well, okay. Like in 12-team leagues, I think that you're probably starting him unless you have, I don't know, like Dalton Kincaid. I'd rather start Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid, he's on bye this week.
Oh, then I wouldn't start.
Would you rather? I was not trying to call you out there.
No,
would you rather start? I'm assuming you'd rather start Taysom Hill, right?
Yeah.
Would you rather start Evan Ingram this week than Pat Freiermuth?
Yes.
Would you rather start, I don't know, Jake Ferguson? Although by the time the show airs,
no. I think I would lean the Muth.
I got the Muth in the top 7 this week, so I agree with you. Listen, you hate to overreact to one game, but you can't not react.
Yeah.
And 9 catches in the first game after they fired the offensive coordinator is a pretty good sign.
Yeah.
Kyle, the Cardinals' passing attack has been not great in the 3 games since Kyler Murray's return. He's been producing in fantasy because he keeps scoring rushing touchdowns. He had 1 carry in week 12. It just happened to be a rushing touchdown that kind of kept afloat what was otherwise a terrible overall performance. What do you think is up with Kyler? He's been horribly inaccurate. What does it mean for Marquise Brown? Is the reason for hope, reason for more pessimism, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, he's just been dreadfully inaccurate, specifically throwing 10-plus yards downfield, especially for someone like Marquise Brown. Those are the throws we need him to be connecting on. He's been completing 10-plus yard throws just north of 30%. He's nearly dead last in the NFL in completion percent over expected. And I think the real reason for optimism is that we've seen him be good on those throws before. And this is now a 3-game sample, I think. So I'm going to say he will be better than the worst intermediate to deep throw in the NFL. He's not going to be like as bad as Dorian Thompson-Robinson. However, even if he progresses, he would still need to make up a lot of ground to not be one of the weaker throwers on, intermediate and deep throws. So he has a lot of ground to make up. I expect him to make up some of it. But does he make up all of it? That's kind of the question facing this entire offense.
Are you guys saying Cliff Kingsbury did nothing wrong?
I know. I had a did he know meme tweet about that, because
oh no,
that would be the ultimate indictment, is that we see Kyler expand what the team is trying to make him do, or trying to allow him to do, is maybe a more generous way to put it, and then he struggles to do that. That would be the ultimate indictment of Kyler, that maybe Cliff was right.
Well, we talked about that. That's what I was most interested in seeing, was how much of the horizontal raid was Cliff and how much of it was this Kyler being like Daniel Jones and not wanting to throw down the field. And early returns, not super promising. We have to move on, but really quick, either of you have a stat or something you want to share on Jaylen Warren versus Najee Harris, who just seem to remain mired in stalemate?
Yeah, I mean, Najee Harris is still basically operating as the RB1. In most ways you cut it. So, I guess it is what it is. Jaylen Warren is the starter, but he's not really. And he remains the more explosive option, the guy who can do more with less, to use corporate speak. So we'll you keep starting them both.
Najee Harris leads the NFL in carries to 20 plus yards. So
good grief.
Hold on. What? Are you kidding?
He's been chunking them lately. He's been pretty solid lately. He started off the year okay, had a pretty Najee Harris-esque month and a half. He's been gashing them lately.
Producer Adam said we could take out that fake stat you just shared, by the way. No way.
He's no Jaylen Warren, to be clear. Warren is still crushing every efficiency metric. Right. But I do think there's probably some aspect of maybe don't jam Najee Harris 20 times a game in the most obvious spots imaginable that makes him look better.
Cardinals are an insanely extreme run funnel. And so I actually think that it makes it a little bit iffy for the pass catchers for the Steelers, because, wow, they are going to really, really want to run the ball.
Denny regrets to inform it's Najee season, and I regret to inform we have to take a quick break. We will be right back after this. If you want more Formula One after the recent Grand Prix in Vegas, check out CNBC's special podcast series, Inside Track, the business of Formula One. An inside look at what's fueling F1's popularity and who is profiting. Hear from the biggest names in the game, the league CEOs, and the $1 million packages rolled out for the most elite fans. You can listen by following the Squawk on the Street podcast wherever you download and subscribe. F1, we talked about a little bit on Tuesday. I would like to become an F1 fan. It's one of those things I haven't had time to get into yet, but I would like to try to get into it at some point.
Just get into golf instead.
I'm into golf, but when I say I'm into golf, I mean I read all the texts my dad sends me, and I watch the majors.
Have you guys watched the F1 and golf documentaries? I think they were done by the same studio.
Yeah, Netflix.
On Netflix, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They've tried to do tennis too, and I'm a big tennis head. That's why I can't follow golf or F1. I'm too big of a racket head.
That doesn't seem like a reason you can't follow another sport.
Well, the reason I can't follow another sport is I very closely follow NFL, MLB, NCAA, kind of the NHL, definitely the Olympics, kind of maxed
Well, this
out.
is once in 4 years. All right, buddy.
Try telling that to NBC. Huh? Huh? No, I know, but I do love the Olympics.
Also,
And
Pat
the
has
Olympics,
11 kids.
The Olympics. That's true. The Olympics, Paris 2024, only on NBC and Peacock. The Indianapolis Colts are getting 1 point on the road against the faded Tennessee Titans. Kyle Dvorchak. Jonathan Taylor is out. Is this as simple as saying then Zack Moss is a plug-and-play RB1?
Brother, you better believe it. He was averaging 24 touches a game in 3 starts without Jonathan Taylor. He's still 10th in the NFL in rushing, I think. And even last week, we saw he still got some work. And I don't think they knew at any point that Jonathan Taylor is injured, because he played through 4 frames of football. They were just giving Zack Moss work because he's kind of earning it. So, I mean, he's not kind of earning it. He legit has been a starting plus caliber running back this year. So is Jonathan Taylor. But now that they don't have those guys, I think all of the work, and we saw this previously in Zack Moss starts, all of the work funnels to one player. So yeah, especially on a week where 60 to 70 teams are on bye, absolutely RB1.
And especially his backup. I mean, it's one thing to be a journeyman in the NFL. Trey Sermon is a practice squad journeyman at this point. And Zack Moss does not have a legitimate backup. He's top 6-7 running back for me.
Yeah.
Totally agree with Kyle's assessment. Denny, a more complicated question is, are we streaming Gardner Minshew? 6 teams on bye. It's a rough scene at quarterback. It is the Bucks, though. Or is it the Bucks? Titans, excuse me. It's like, I know it's not the Bucks. They just faced the Bucks. The Titans, though, like the Bucks, much better against the run. Someone you like to attack in the passing game, it's Gardner Minshew. Can we stream Gardner Minshew? Right. He's in like the Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield zone. That's another reason I had the Bucks, because I had Baker Mayfield and Gardner Minshew back to back all week. Can we stream Gardner Minshew?
Yeah, there's no real way around it. You're streaming Gardner Minshew, and you're feeling pretty good about it. Look, you know what you're getting. The guy leads the league over the past 8 weeks in turnover-worthy plays by a good margin. So what can you do about that? But the matchup is right, guys. The Titans are giving up the second highest dropback EPA since week 7 and the 5th highest passing success rate over that span. They're allowing the 3rd highest completion rate over expected. Everything points to the Titans as a really, really bad secondary. And you know what? The Colts have a 23-point implied total, which is not entirely hateful.
Denny and Kyle, very quickly, Gardner Minshew against the Titans, Russell Wilson against the Texans.
Russ, do it, Russ. That game's going to be fun.
I feel like Minshew is the play.
Gardner Minshew against the Titans or Derek Carr against the Lions if Chris Olave plays?
Carr.
Russ, baby. Who do you think has more tutties this year? Who do you think has more tutties? You better believe it's Russ. He's like 4th in touchdowns.
That's all he does, though.
They're all gimmicks and garbage, and we love it either way.
He has 2 completions for 8 yards every week, and both of them are 4-yard touchdowns.
And one of them's to Samaje Perine, the other one's to Adam Troutman or Brandon Johnson. Cortland Sutton won every week because he's actually really good.
Producer Adam, I honestly was about to ask this one, and I thought I would be persecuted for my beliefs, though. So I brought this one up. Gardner Minshew against the Titans or Kenny Pickett against the Cardinals? We're just asking questions.
Pickett.
Oh, Gardner Minshew versus Pickett. Minshew. I was
saying you just went to bat for Gardner Minshew, and then you very casually say Pickett over him?
This is a new Steelers, folks.
No. This is
Denny's got crazy belief in the new Steelers. Very quick, Kyle. Titans offense. Can we trust Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins? DeAndre Hopkins has nuked the Colts earlier this season. Pun, I guess, intended there. Are we trusting the Tennessee offense at all?
Yeah, I mean, the Colts have been a really extreme run funnel. I mean, the highest in terms of pass rate over expected faced, which is say run rate over expected. They're facing the highest run rate over expected in the entire NFL. Been pretty good, not great, but pretty good against the pass. Surprisingly good given the talent they entered the season with, and much worse against the run. I still think you have to play Nuke, though. He sees half of the targets and 80% of the air yards every single week, but it's not the best matchup in terms of the team's pass rate. Like, we're getting 19 Will Levis pass attempts.
You were supposed to say Giga Ultra Run Funnel. Kyle Dvorchak speak, and you did not do it. Trying to save their season at home, the New Orleans Saints are roughly 4.5-point underdogs against the Lions. Denny, Chris Olave is trying to play through a concussion. We don't know his status. He was practicing Wednesday. We're assuming he'll be practicing in on Thursday. That's always a good sign.
Yeah.
If he suits up, does Detroit constitute a receiver smash spot at this point? They have been bleeding aerial production.
Yeah, no, I mean, not going to list 15 stats. I'll just tell you that the Lions have been gouged through the air, both in the intermediate and deep parts of the field. So the Lions defense has regressed to a point where we might not know the Lions as well as we did as far as like game script and like what they want to do, because when their defense was holding up earlier in the season, it was very predictable. Like, you're getting Amon-Ra targets, and you're just getting a bunch of carries for Gibbs and Montgomery most weeks. That's not the case. This defense has gotten to the point where it's like, I don't know if Gibbs and Montgomery can get there in negative game script. They didn't last week against the Packers, and so I think this affects everything. But yes, the Lions are quite bad in the secondary.
With the Lions backfield, I will say, even that very precarious game script last week, they did both get 15 touches. David Montgomery, though, didn't catch a pass.
Both finished as RB2s in PPR as well. It was a kind of an uninspiring week from RBs, but since David Montgomery returned, both of them have finish at least as RB2s in every single week. So that's 6 RB2 performances from the cohort. They have like a negative 6% pass rate over expected since David Montgomery returned. We know their offensive identity. They're good at passing the football. They love running it.
So you guys are making, I think, points that actually kind of gel there. Where Denny's saying the Lions are kind of coming unglued on defense, which makes things complicated for them on offense.
Yes.
I do think we know what they want to do on offense still. It's just a matter of will they actually be able to continue doing that. I think against the Saints, they probably will be. The Saints have a tough run defense. Saints, they have a tougher pass defense. It's not like an elite run defense. But I think they'll be able to play Lions football against the Saints still. But I agree with Denny that things are becoming kind of crazy enough for the defense that might go a little haywire for them down the stretch. Denny, so we're talking about the Lions backfield. What about the Saints backfield? The Lions, the defense going haywire does not include against the run. They're still an elite run defense. What do you think this means for Alvin Kamara? His touch totals have come down a little. Hasn't been scoring that many touchdowns. Is it Tay season? Question mark.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that Taysom should be a good play here, especially like look these receiver injuries. You know, you have Rashid Shaheed. I'm not sure if he's practicing this week, but no way to know that. He does have a quad injury.
I believe he is not practicing.
And, he did not practice Wednesday. I didn't see his status as of today, but not a great sign.
Right. Dennis Allen said he has a good little big quad injury. And Michael Thomas out. I think all these injuries are going to add up to more touches for Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill has 13 rushing attempts inside the 10-yard line. That's the same as Kamara. Okay, so they kind of are used in equal measure where it counts the most. You'll be shocked to know this. I'm bullish on Taysom Hill.
You're bullish on Taysom Hill? Are you necessarily bearish on Alvin Kamara? He's pretty high in some of the rankings I've seen this week. Or he seems like some people are getting him in like the top 5.
He's gonna have to do the scammy thing. There's very little room for Alvin Kamara to have like 80 or 100 yards rushing here. I'm thinking more in the 50-yard range, and then he could get by with 6 receptions, something along those lines. But I do think that the ceiling is limited here for him because the Lions are like a pretty pronounced pass funnel defense.
So final question: if Chris Olave plays, does he go bonkers? I mean, he was going to have a 200-yard game probably if he did not get injured in Week 13. Does he just go bonkers against this Lions team?
I think yes. I mean,
let's do it. Come on, have some faith, boys.
He was targeted 9 times on 22 routes last week, so I think we'll see more of that.
It's a classic. I made this comparison on Twitter or X or screw you, whatever it's called now. Right? You guys hear about this? You guys following this?
I did hear about this.
Where it was kind of like, just because Tyler Algier was good didn't mean that the Falcons should be featuring him because Bijan Robinson is awesome. Just because Michael Thomas was Michael Thomas didn't mean the Saints should be featuring him. They have Chris Olave. Michael Thomas goes out one game. Suddenly they devote all their resources to Chris Olave, and he goes bonkers.
I know.
And I just feel like it's a similar situation for the Saints, and that he might just go totally nuts down the stretch. The Eagles' ridiculously tough schedule continues with the 49ers home date, Kyle, but we will start on the other side of the ball. The Eagles have become famously giving to opposing quarterbacks and wide receivers, even though they keep winning games. But is this a concerning spot for Brock Purdy and the 49ers' elite passing attack? Brock Purdy's a front runner. What happens if they fall behind early in Philadelphia against a defense that gives up a lot of production but can create chaos for opposing offenses?
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of concerns. We're just seeing week in, week out. Like there was like a 2 or 3 game stretch where Brock Purdy was like a top 16 quarterback in all the efficiency metrics. And outside of that, he's absolutely been destroying. And he's been good when he's been in a very obvious pass situation. Like in 70% plus likely to pass situations, he's a top 5 quarterback in EPA per play. He is in nearly every split, essentially. So when teams think he's going to pass, he still gets away with it. And to the extent that like, he's probably not getting away with it. Sure, the scheme is very good for him. It's helpful. But he's really good too. Like, I mean, is he on the level that
he's good? It's fine.
He's good.
He's good.
Do it. He's good. Say it. Say it. Everyone say it. Denny, say it. He's good. Say it.
I accepted it. He's good.
He's good.
He's good.
Good.
And the
He's
scheme makes
good.
him great.
Good.
He's good. The scheme helps him. Having Kyle Shanahan as your offensive coordinator / head coach, very helpful. Having Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, very helpful. He's doing exactly what you'd expect with that cast. He's crushing it. And I don't have any real worries about him in this spot against an Eagles defense that, like you said, just not living up to expectations even close this year.
I think we might have already talked about this in the podcast once, but once I realized that Brock Purdy was West Coast to I had more acceptance that he is actually good. And maybe it's partly the system, of course, but they found
it is in part the system. No one's going to deny that. Kyle
they
Shanahan
found the right,
helps
they
out
found the right
quarterbacks.
functionary for the system. And once I realized he's West Coast to I accepted the Brock Purdy.
I will say I do think Purdy can create out of structure more than Tua.
Purdy
Tua can't do anything out of structure.
No.
Nothing.
Purdy's definitely got like the YOLO gene.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if I've ever seen someone throw. He throws across his body in the field more than Jameis Winston does. Jameis
He does.
like chill.
He does do that. Yeah.
And it's a touchdown every single time. I'm not bothered by it at all. not even remotely.
I do have a question for you,
All
Pat,
right.
real quick. Where's your God now?
He hath forsake me.
Yeah.
He has forsook me. Oh my God. Denny, Eagles offensive concerns against the 49ers. The 49ers have given up their fair share of passing production too. A lot better overall defense than the Eagles this year, though. They shored up their pass rush, of course, at the trade deadline. Not a great spot for A.J. Brown to be trying to snap a slump. Is that fair framing to you?
Kinda. I look, the Niners are a strange defense in that they are by far the most extreme pass funnel in the league. Okay, like nobody tries to run the ball against them, and I don't think that the Eagles will try that. That doesn't mean that they're bad at defending the pass. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And unfortunately for some of my DFS teams the last couple of weeks, so they are good. They are most exploited on the boundaries, which I think is good for both Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown runs about 80% from the boundary. Devontae Smith is about 65% this season. So they shut down the middle of the field, the slot, the outside stuff is there. I do think that we could see, kind of an artificial rise in pass volume for what has been a pretty conservative Eagles offense in recent weeks.
I should have asked this question after we we're talking about Brock Purdy. But do either of you have a lean on, is it an Ayuk week? Is it a Debo week? A Kittle week? I believe the Eagles feature zone defense primarily, which is more of like a Debo thing. But
yeah, I mean, I looked into this. So one, Debo does do far better against zone. Ayuk has been better than him against zone, and he's destroyed him against man. Like Ayuk has just been better because he's been great. Not to say Debo's been bad, but Ayuk's been really good in basically all situations, whereas Debo's been a bit more situation dependent. And also teams just run zone a lot more than they run man. Like the Eagles are 20th in zone rate, as in like they're below average in usage of zone. They run it at like a 70+% clip. So the splits, one, won't matter that much depending on your opponent. And they also don't really point to like Debo having this specific scenario in which he's better than Ayuk. Ayuk is just that good in all formats. So I think like this point, we're mostly just ranking Ayuk ahead every week. Not to say it won't be a Debo week, but Ayuk has been playing so well this season that he's just the team's top receiving option. And I don't think it's that close.
No, it's not. It's not. I do think, like in certain models that measure, a receiver's opportunity, Ayuk is like not in the top 30. So he's being extremely efficient with his opportunity. You're starting him, you're confident in him. I think this game has a chance to be sort of maybe a back and forth type affair. I will say that the Eagles over the past 6 weeks have given up the second highest target share to slot receivers. So that would be Kittle and that would be Debo.
The Eagles, despite having defensive vulnerabilities, just beat an elite team every single week. So that would profile. 49ers would profile as thus. And by the way, Brandon Ayuk has 13 total targets over his past 3 weeks. It feels like at some point the rug will be pulled. Right. I do not think it'll be in this game, which, as you guys kind of alluded to, I believe will be a shootout. Producer Adam did say the weather might be bad in Philly, but every time you worry about the weather, you just like totally screw yourself.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with fretting about the weather. I mean, yeah, it should factor in, but I'm not going to like pull guys out.
Your
of my
model
lineup.
should have like a toggle that if game is played in Cleveland, of course the weather is dangerous. Anywhere else, it's probably fine. Let's not worry about it.
We should renew the call here, obviously, for domes across America,
especially in Cleveland. Come on.
Oh, please.
Yeah. The Cleveland will never have, quote, one good weather game. And by the way, Denny will never, quote, fret in his cardigan. Couldn't help me. Sorry.
I was writing poetry before the show.
You were writing, we'll be writing some more poetry right after this. We will be right back. It's a career first for Patrick Mahomes on Sunday Night Football. The reigning MVP and the world's best football player will travel to Lambeau Field for the first time in his career when he takes on Jordan Love and the Packers. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. And don't forget, find all your favorite NBC sports shows and Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. The Texans host the inexplicably surging Denver Broncos as roughly 3-4 point favorites at home. Denny, what do we expect from Houston's approach in this game versus what you have deemed to be a run funnel Broncos defense?
Yeah, right. And this is sort of switched over the course of the season. I was posting about it today. The Denver secondary has been really good since about week 9. Lots of stats, but most importantly, the 12th lowest completion rate over expected, 5th lowest drop back success rate over that span. Teams are able to run it because the Broncos are a poor rush defense. Broncos are giving up the highest yards before contact per rush attempt since week 8, and it's like not even close. Okay, so like teams can get by via the run. I think that we will see this Texans team either be balanced or maybe even lean a little toward the rush. It's a really good spot for Devin Singletary, less so for Dameon Pierce, who seems to be like the clear-cut RB2 here. I will say that there is some hope for the Texans airing it out a little bit, because when the Texans played the run funnel Cardinals, they were actually 4% over their expected drop back rate a couple weeks ago. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're just going to take the air out of the ball. But this is a tremendous spot for Singletary, I think.
Do we think, by the way, Devin Singletary, he played to a carries draw with Dameon Pierce, but he played over 80% of the Texans snaps last week against the Jaguars. What do we think is more instructive? Do we think the 80% was a fluke just with Dameon Pierce coming off a multi-week injury? Maybe they were easing him back in. What do we think was more telling, the 80% snap share or like the 6-5 carries advantage for Devin Singletary?
I mean, I would say 80% snap share. Devin Singletary's played better significantly than Dameon Pierce this year. Right. The team seems to realize that to some degree. Do I think that he will have like an 80-20 carry share? No, I still think that will fall more in line. But like, he's better, got more snaps, doubled him up on touches because they passed a lot and they use Singletary in passing situations. So you're not starting him as if he's getting 80% of the carries, but you can confidently start him at 60% plus. And then there still is a ceiling that they don't use Dameon Pierce as much. So he's probably another on a week with as many buys as we have, one of the guys you're like, I guess he's an RB1 this week. He's like RB11 or whatever. He's in a great spot, as Denny pointed out.
I was going to ask this one to Kyle, but Denny kind of already answered this earlier. Does Russell Wilson have streamer juice? He's exceeded 200 yards one time in his past 7 games, but the Texans are a very, very
once 200?
Yes, once 200.
Oh my God.
Not a misprint. But the Texans are a good spot.
Rerun the tapes on me touting Russell Wilson.
Oh, you touting Russ. I thought it was Denny touting Russ. Sorry. So does Russ have any streamer juice against the Houston Texans? Who wants to field this one, Kyle or Denny?
Yeah, I mean, the Texans are just outside the top 20 in EPA per dropback allowed. They've given up the 7th most passing fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Russ has been modestly efficient, mostly just like touchdowns, not really like great in CPOE or EPA per play. So, but it's like a pretty bad week, and should be an exciting game. It's probably the 4th or so highest total, I think. So, yeah, he's a streamer option. I don't know if he's the number 1 option, but when I'm writing up, at this point, we've really churned the wire pretty much to death at quarterback. He's hovering around 50%. There are plenty of leagues where he's the best option. It's either him or Gardner Minshew, and I prefer him to Minshew, but it's not like, please don't catch me going to bat for him this hard, all right? Minshew's fine too.
There's a man by the name of Kenneth Pickett, Kyle.
No, okay, let's not carry it away here.
There's also a man, this was just handed to me. So someone handed me this note. I'm just reading it. There's also a man named Bryce Young. Basically.
No.
No, what?
I just had to get your reaction.
Look, I do want to say Russell Wilson is doing Russell things. He leads the league in touchdown rate. He's getting away with it in ways that drive the nerds crazy, including me. So, if he continues to do that, that's great. Also, this Texans-Broncos game, it started at 44, the total. It's up to 47.5. So something's happening.
File under things you love to see. Real quick, either of you have an opinion on what effect would Noah Brown's return have? We don't know if he's actually returned yet from his knee injury. It's kind of trending that direction, though. It seems like Tank Dell has leveled up during Noah Brown's absence.
Mm-hmm.
Nico Collins is just a better boundary receiver than Noah Brown, but would he steal enough snaps, enough touches to make life complicated for Tank Dell and Nico Collins?
I think a little bit. I mean, he wouldn't be a non-factor. I think it takes maybe caps the upside of both Nico Collins, who has led the team in targets over the past 2 weeks, and Tank Dell.
Kyle, are you going to say anything?
I think the hope is they pull Robert Woods off, because Robert Woods has clearly been the team's third best receiver, and it's not a trio. He is by far, and that's with the setup they have right now. That's not including Noah Brown. He's the fourth with Noah Brown, also with a big gap after him or after Noah Brown to him. So the hope will be that they run what is almost certainly their optimal 3-wide setup. That's the hope, though. I don't know. We saw in the first game, Tank Dell ran less than half the routes. So no guarantees, but if they are smart, and they've generally, they're crushing it with a setup that really wasn't supposed to work in year one. Hopefully, they do the smart thing, mostly just play Noah Brown over Robert Woods.
Dalton Schultz, by the way, crazy bad usage last week. Ran half the routes, the splitting routes with Brevin Jordan.
Yes,
I think he's hurt. He hasn't been practicing this week so far. I don't know if we're going to see him.
The Broncos allow the most fantasy receiver points to tight ends. Excuse me. They allow the most tight end fantasy points.
Me digging up my 80-man roster dynasty leagues. Brevin Jordan's got to be on one of these.
All right. Hey, listen. Hey, that is a great thing. I'm all aboard the Brevin Jordan train now.
Oh, man, this is going downhill really fast. This is normally be the final 10 minutes of the podcast for Brevin Jordan. The Atlanta Falcons.
To be clear, I just wanted to Dalton Schultz did not practice, I believe, on Wednesday, or we don't have him practicing on Thursday as well. Brevin Jordan, I know the floor on DraftKings is $2,500 for tight ends. Brevin Jordan's got to be $2 actual dollars, 22 or 1,200 times less, not dollars, times less.
They actually give you 1,000 if you play Brevin Jordan.
Exactly, there's a rebate system for playing Brevin Jordan.
You mail $2 American to the DraftKings headquarters, and they give you $1,000 rebate, and then you play Brevin Jordan, and then you lose, so everyone wins. I have no idea if that makes any sense whatsoever. Sure. The Atlanta Falcons are boarding one of 40 daily Delta Airlines flights from Atlanta Hartsfield to LaGuardia to take on the New York Jets as 3-point road favorites for a ghastly total 33.5-point showdown. Kyle, the Falcons have committed to Bijan Robinson, but could the passing attack struggle so mightily against the Jets this week that it torpedoes the Falcons' entire offense?
The passing attack has struggled most weeks. I don't know if you've watched a single Falcons game. It typically doesn't go well for the passing attack. But it still hasn't stopped Bijan from getting 5 RB1 PPR performances and another 4 RB2 performances because they use him through the air so much, despite not really scoring many touchdowns. So I'm not really concerned. And this is the ultimate run spot. The Jets are almost the heaviest run funnel team in the NFL. Of course, Falcons are pouring it in that funnel. They are the run heaviest offense. So it's, a match made in heaven in terms of what the Falcons want to do and what teams historically have done against the Jets. Even if the passing attack definitely isn't going to be, doing any favors in scaring the Jets defense, we're getting probably 20 touches for Bijan and probably 12 for Algier.
Wow. Denny's God. I'm logging back on.
Yes. We have found my God, and it's Tyler Algier seeing 12 carries in the fourth quarter of a blowout against the Jets.
Your God has rejoined the group chat. That's very good to hear. Good things happen to good people. Denny, what do we make of the Jets complaining about Breece Hall bouncing every run to the outside, kind of publicly challenging Breece Hall this week ahead of a matchup with the Falcons?
Yeah, well, it is something that I saw on the film guys had been saying this. Breece is trying to make every single run a 50-yard touchdown, and it's just not
It's crazy
working.
that he does it that often still. It's like, oh man, I can't believe this guy keeps swinging for the fences. I know he hits a home run all the time, but maybe take a single every now and then. Like, imagine telling Aaron Judge, like, I know you just set the home run record, but like, what if you got on base more often?
Right.
Hit rocks,
Exactly.
man.
No, I get it. And you know what? That's the Zoomer. That's the Zoomer opinion on this. I say get the hard fought yards. All right, that every millennial should. 8% of Breece Hall's runs have been over 10 yards this season. That's way down from 20% in 2022. So he's trying to hit the big one every time. I think the main issue is that the Jets remain weirdly pass heavy, and I mean, even when you look at like over expected numbers, right? And then they are also pass heavy in the red zone. Breece Hall has 5 green zone rushing attempts on the season. 5. What is that?
Actually, no clue.
I mean, how can that be? How can that be 5 inside
Really
the 10?
don't know. That's a shocking
So
stat.
anyway, his fantasy prospect. He's a very like volatile, sensitive sort of play. Like if things don't break just right, it's not happening for Breece Hall. This game scares me, honestly.
The Jets are the one team I just don't understand. Why do they just not start a drive and like, listen, I don't care what happens. We're doing 6 straight Breece Hall carries and just seeing what happens. Like they're like the one team that desperately just needs to try that approach. And
they're not doing that.
They are definitely not doing that. They're watching Tim Boyle like redefine what it means to be an interception thrower. Is there any hope for either Garrett Wilson or Drake London in this game, or do we fear to tread and wide receiver 2-3 land here?
Garrett Wilson, yes, you're starting him. I think pretty confidently. Drake London might have to get it done on like 3 targets here.
Man, we're confidently Garrett Wilson high. I wasn't sure I planned to hear confidently for Garrett Wilson.
I mean, he had like 25% of targets over half the air yards last week, and like Tim Boyle's worse than Zack Wilson, but we are splitting
considerably. He's considerably worse. I don't know if it's splitting hair. I think he's considerably worse than Zack Wilson. I really do.
I don't know.
Tim Boyle might be the worst player to take a snap this century. Like he is that bad.
Oh my God.
He was that bad for the Lions. Like it's insane.
He was that bad for UConn.
Exactly.
Go to UConn, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty bad. But all right, we'll move on. The Miami Dolphins are rubbing up against being 10-point home favorites against the Commanders in a game, rubbing up against a 50 total. Denny, is this finally the Tua smash spot we've been waiting for after a month of mediocre fantasy returns due to really wonky game scripts?
I mean, it definitely seems like a spot to smash. The Washington secondary is a disaster. They recently fired the obviously the defensive coordinator, the secondary's the defensive backs coach. It's just they don't have any chance of stopping the Dolphins here. I guess weird game script could get in the way here. But yeah, any way you cut it, Washington's bottom tier secondary. They are a top 10 pass funnel on the season. They're a pass funnel over the past month. And as far as touchdowns go, I think Tua has a path to multiple touchdowns here. I know that's a very bold thing to say against the Commanders, but Miami is 6th in pass rate over expected in the red zone. So let's just hope he gets there before this game gets weird.
Yeah, please just Kyle say the line. It's a Giga Ultra smash spot. Please.
Giga Ultra nuclear smash spot.
Is that a second wave laugh? But I wasn't expecting it.
I mean, I like anytime Kyle says Giga.
And whenever Giga, it makes me feel extremely old. It also makes me feel extremely alive. So please just make it a Giga smash to where were we? Kyle, what's going on with this Dolphins backfield though? If Devin Achane returns, I've been confidently ranking Raheem Mostert ahead of Devin Achane this week. Not really expecting the pre-injury dynamic we saw to return. Is that a good or bad opinion?
I mean, all we have to go on this is purely vibes, but we saw Achane come back, immediately get hurt. You have to think that with this team eyeing a playoff run and they're nearly 10-point favorites, probably blowing out this Commanders team. There's no reason for them, assuming Achane is back, to give him 10 carries. Like, they don't need to do that. I still think on 10 carries versus a Washington defense with a giant implied team total for the Dolphins, that is obviously, you're still playing him, but it's like you could get 3 carries for 50 scoreless yards, and that's 5 fantasy points, or you could get 9 for 180 and 2. That's the variance you're willing to embrace. But this is a spot where until we see the role, probably ranking him like RB 20s, somewhere in the 20s there. And Mostert's still comfortably as an RB1, whereas when in the previous iteration of this backfield, it was like Achane as RB9 and Mostert as like 15 or something.
Yeah, I mean, Achane really up to like 4 or 5 that final week or two. And I have Mostert as the RB10. I think I have Achane as like the RB19. So
yep,
total alignment with you there. Denny, anything, I don't know, I wrote tangible, any trends, anything noteworthy going on with these Commanders pass catchers? It just feels totally random to me every week who's going to get 11 targets that week for the Commanders.
Well, look, Curtis Samuel is fully back as the scam that we know and love. I mean, like 11 targets, I think, against the Cowboys this past week. It'll be negative game script again here. So Curtis Samuel is like, in PPR, like you kind of got to find a way to get him in your lineup. Is that too much? Am I?
No. I'm just saying. Denny just tells the truth. You might not like it. He just tells the truth.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't want to say it. I don't want to be like jam Curtis Samuel, but like
I've got some stuff you will not want to hear.
Curtis. You don't want to say Curtis Samuel is the key to the entire Week 13 slate.
I mean, go ahead.
Curtis Samuel and Logan Thomas have more 20 PPR point games than Terry McLaurin this week. Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel have more 100-yard games than Terry McLaurin this season.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Is Terry McLaurin good?
I mean, look, he's not a number 1. That's the problem, is that he should be the number 2 receiver, a really good number 2 behind an alpha. He's not that at all. I will say I wrote him up in the regression files in the positive section of the article because no receiver has run colder over the past month than Terry McLaurin.
Over the past half decade, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah, when you consider the quarterback play he's been working with all of his life, running extremely cold.
Right.
He's on pace for his like worst year by yards per game by a pretty easy margin, and that's with his quarterback on pace for like the 6th most pass attempts in a season in NFL history. It's insane.
Yeah,
I think that is true. I'm pretty sure I saw like Hayden Wink's tweet. He'll finish 6th at this pace.
Feels all too true.
Yeah, McLaurin has 38% air yard share in this offense. He had 42% last week. So hey, we're getting those prayer yards. I think you can kind of sort of hope that he cashes them in against Miami.
Terry McLaurin literally saying the Hail Mary on the field.
I mean, I will. I have him on a couple important teams, folks, and I need Scary Terry to come through.
Scary Terry, seek higher power, seek help. The Rams and Browns are both awaiting word on Myles Garrett's health, but in the meantime, the Rams are roughly 3.5-point home favorites against the Browns team that could be starting Joe Flacco. It seems like they will be starting Joe Flacco, Kyle. Would that be a net positive for the Browns pass catchers? Because we know Denny and I talked about this in Galaxy Range. Joe Flacco shows up, he throws 50 passes, he goes home. It's kind of like the cycle. But is he too old, too immobile for this to even be a positive at this point?
It's possible, but please, God, we need to find out.
We do.
Because
we do.
I mean,
absolutely.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson, or I guess PJ Walker, has been nearly the worst quarterback in the NFL by both EPA per dropback and completion percent over expected. And then you look at who's the worst, and it's DTR. Like, these are just 2 of the weaker quarterback starters we've seen in the NFL this year. Maybe Joe Flacco's worse. He's, I think, about to be 39. I think he's 38 right now. It's like 3-13 over the past 4 years. He hasn't started that many games over the past 4 years. But there's nowhere to go but laterally, as in he's old and just not able to do it, which that's fine, I guess, or up because he's a maybe NFL caliber, like, 32 caliber quarterback. We need to find out. And I think this does give me some hope. I mean, it's definitely a reason to hope.
Joe Flacco is 3-14 since 2019 in terms of QB win-loss, by the way. So,
yeah, but that wasn't his fault.
It was not his fault. Someone's Kyle's in a fire.
We're praying for Kyle.
Looking very powerfully into it.
Okay, listen. You know what this means? Okay, so last year, when Joe Flacco started for the Jets, he was checking down at such a rate that both Michael Carter and Breece Hall were getting there for PPR purposes. It was that many checkdowns. David Njoku has double-digit targets locked in.
He does.
Okay.
He does.
I mean, locked in 10. Okay. He has 20 in the range of outcomes. That's what I'll say.
Well, I'll say, by the way, is check out Galaxy Brains if you're wondering about Joe Flacco's motivations for doing this and what he is giving up for one last job. Denny gets into the thick of it on Galaxy Brains. Denny, how concerned are we that the Rams might go super run heavy in this game and just render Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua unpredictable wide receiver twos?
I'm very worried about that because the Browns are the most extreme run funnel in the league, and honestly, they're not a great rush defense. They're really, obviously elite at defending the pass, and the Rams have showed a willingness to really establish it. I do think that the Rams, I think Sean McVay clearly sees the Rams' only path to the postseason, and they're still in it somehow. They're still in the hunt.
They're in every in the hunt graphic.
Okay, that Rams helmet is in the hunt. They're hunting.
Denny turns on his ESPN afternoon stories, and they put up in the hunt graphic, and there the Rams are.
Stories. Oh my God, you sound like my great grandfather.
That's what I was going for.
Wow. So I do think that McVay sees his only chance at the playoffs at just being very conservative, hiding Stafford, running with Kyron Williams. It's another great spot for Kyron. And so that really lops off a lot of the pass volume, the target volume for Nacua and Kupp. I think they go from, I guess folks are ranking them as both top 12, top 15 a while back. Now I guess it's more like top 25 maybe.
Yeah, and before it was Kupp who had the advantage. I think now we rank Nacua ahead of Kupp. Just until Kupp proves he's not a decoy or he's not going to immediately re-injure his ankle if he's playing every snap. But yeah, it's a volatile. I wish we knew how to. Kyle, what's the read on Myles Garrett? Is he leaning in or is he leaning out?
They called him day to day, and I feel like as long as you're not a wide receiver, dudes in the trenches play through day to day. That's
they
my
usually
vibe.
do. They do usually play through day to day. He'd already vowed to play. I think that was before he got an MRI, which is usually the MRI can be kind of a tough scene after you vow to play. But we'll see. Myles Garrett looms extremely large over this game. Either of you have anything on the Browns backfield where Jerome Ford he's the 1A, but he can't break free for what you'd call a true chairmanship of the committee. Any reason to expect things to change?
I mean, he's dominating the work right now. He's averaging something close, just shy of 20 touches per game over the past 4 games.
Really that high? I would have guessed it was 15, which is still
Yep.
good.
No, he's crushing it outside of one, they don't get the goal near the goal line because they're bad. And two, the very few times they have, Kareem Hunt has still been in there, but it's so hard to tell if that's a meaningful trend or literally they have 2 goal line carries over the past month, and they just coincidentally went to Kareem Hunt. Had they gotten there more often, maybe those go to Ford, but he's touching the ball so much. And as Denny pointed out, Joe Flacco might just be a check down artist at this point. He's running all of the routes that the PPR floor in terms of just catches plus carries and the yards he gets on those carries is really high, RB2 plus high. If the offense has a little bit of juice, just a little bit of juice under Joe Flacco, that's what we need from a guy who's playing a near 3-down role.
With Flacco, I mean, I had Amari Cooper outside the top 30 pretty confidently. For the one day this week where I thought it was going to be DTR, I think I kind of crept him back almost in the top 30. I might creep Elijah Moore into the top 36 because, you guys mentioned, his check down tendencies. Is that an overreaction to potential Flacco, who again at 3-14?
I think that the check down thing is bad for Cooper. It's probably not great for Moore either. I think that it's Njoku and it's Ford primarily.
Wow. Yeah, I actually don't know where I'm going to end up with them in my rankings. That's a tough one we're dealing with heading into the weekend. The Jacksonville Jaguars are catching 8 points at home versus what we can really only call a collapsed Bengals team, Denny. So just lay it on us. The only thing we care about in this game is it real. Calvin Ridley, the return, the dominance, the 589-1 after halftime last week after donutting in the first half.
Right. And dropped the touchdown, as you mentioned.
30-yard touchdown. I wasn't counting.
Yeah, didn't cry on that one.
No, I didn't. I was not. Literally, I shut a bank examiner's foot in my door. then he got really hurt. That allowed me to close the door.
You play in some weird best ball leagues.
I know. I know. Sorry. Yes.
So yeah, over the past 2 games, Ridley leads the team 36% air yards, 22% target share over that span. Christian Kirk is actually 3rd on the team in both of those categories, behind Evan Ingram and Ridley. Look, when Zay Jones is on the field, it's Ridley season, and it's definitely not Kirk season. Okay, so I think Ridley. I think the different sort of routes they have him running, the lack of press coverage that he was seeing earlier in the season, I think that all says that it is real. I think Ridley could be a big difference maker down the stretch for fantasy. I know you struggled with him for a long time here. It seems like
I know you're in 9th place now, so it doesn't matter too much, but
but Ridley could get you to 7th, Kyle.
Ridley is going to blow up consolation brackets.
Oh, you don't even know. Consolation brackets are going to be destroyed.
Blow up your consolation bracket with this one weird trick. Have Calvin Ridley be good for the games that do not matter in fantasy. But by the way, though, the matchup for Calvin Ridley, the Bengals are absolutely hemorrhaging chunk gains, correct? Haven't they just kind of totally fallen apart on defense over the past few weeks?
They're giving up third highest completion rate over expected over the past month. Just everything says that quarterbacks are just getting whatever they want. I mean, yeah, you talk about a smash spot, a giga spot smashing, all that stuff. Trevor Lawrence is in one.
Yeah, because Lou Anarumo, one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, but almost always, not coincidentally, in the second half when the Bengals are playing with a lead, and you can start doing some weird stuff to opposing offenses. Those situations are gone for the Bengals defense. Right. Kyle, how much should we read into the Bengals saying they want to get Chase Brown more involved? So I wrote in my rankings article this week, like, how does the post Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon environment look? I said, well, maybe not a great sign that when they asked Zach Taylor about him Monday, he's like, we got to get Chase Brown.
I mean, like, that means? Do we care? They're one of the worst offenses in the NFL, and Joe Mixon was generally middling to below average in efficiency when they had a respectable quarterback as far as defenses are concerned under center. Maybe this makes you move Mixon from like RB 25 to 29, but also like Chase Brown has never had more than 1 touch in a game this year and has played way more special teams than he has offense. Oh, who cares? You're not playing Chase Brown, but you probably shouldn't have been playing Joe Mixon. You know, you're in your consolation bracket for sure if you're still playing Joe Mixon.
Wow. I feel like he was a little better than that.
He was actually not, well, he wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. But the problem is
scoring a little more the past few weeks, but yeah.
Where do you have Mixon rank, guys?
It's like I had him right on the 2-3 borderline at like 24, 25. I have moved him down to more of the zone. Kyle saw my like RB 28.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
I think I had him 25 or 6, but I'll have to check.
I have him ones. Man, I don't know. I got him ahead of James Conner. Does that seem right?
That's like a very similar archetype, though, that they're like not hyper efficient. Connor's a bit more efficient, but runs fewer routes. Mixon runs more routes, but is not as good. And they're on terrible offenses. I mean, Vegas has a lower implied team total on the Cardinals than it does on the Browns, for instance, who are starting Joe Flacco.
Wow. Final one, Joe Mixon at the Jaguars or A.J. Dillon versus the Chiefs?
Dillon.
Oh man, Dillon's the worst running back in the NFL. Let's just be real.
I think that's right. I think that's right. But also the environment is just way better.
It's true. Pat, true. He is the worst, but and you are also correct, I think, probably. AJ Dillon ahead of Joe Mixon.
AJ Dillon, yeah, no, he is I think I posted the other day, like hands down, I think that he is probably the single worst, not just starting running back, like the worst running back.
Yeah, it hasn't worked, and they're gonna give it 4 more years to find out.
This offense is way better with Patrick Taylor at running back than AJ Dillon.
I think they're starting to realize that too. Patrick Taylor got hurt. He's healthy though, and he is playing this week. We'll see. Quickly on this game, is it just over for Jamar Chase? T. Higgins has also resumed practicing after a really lengthy absence. Was it his hamstring again recently?
Yes.
He's practicing again. Jamar Chase, quote, got home last week, but it required a super fluky 30-yard reception. He did not score a touchdown. How serious is the concern for Jamar Chase with Jake Browning under center?
Wasn't Chase last week like 4 or 5 for 80? That's
He
like
was, but 30 of
pretty-
those yards was on a super fluke. I think.
No, I was going to say
someone's
get home is
helmet or something.
a very positive spin on 13 PPR points for a guy who I drafted second overall everywhere.
30 yards, that's what you were expecting, right?
Not when I drafted him, not in August. Now it's the hope. But like, I think the point, I'm agreeing with you in a roundabout way, is the point is getting home nowadays is getting saved to 13 PPR points by a 30-yard fluke catch. Oh my God. Can you explain the fluke catch? Because I remember it now. Go ahead.
No, I want you to explain it actually, because I had only vague memory. It like hit off someone's face and like.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know if it was hit off someone's face, but it was just a tip pass that, probably closer to an interception than a catch that ends up in Chase's hands in space, and he goes long with it. Obviously not a touchdown, but
obviously.
It could have been an interception, and it ends up a long Chase gain. So I don't know if it's over for Chase, but another guy who it's the Bengals. I joke about them as like, have fun your consolation bracket. You probably did maybe make the playoffs with Bengals on your roster, but like luck of the draw is these guys are far less valuable as fantasy producers with Jake Browning under center. So
Teagan's even in the top 36.
No,
definitely not in his first game back. Maybe he like gets 236 when we know he runs all the routes and we see him get targeted, but in his first game back, no.
Yikes. Yeah. Imagine telling that to all of our August selves. It'd be,
yeah.
We're like, well, yeah, we knew something would go horribly wrong.
well, look, I'm not going to say that Joe Burrow is injury prone, but Joe Burrow's proneness to injury kept me off of some Bengals this summer.
So you're saying it's just totally normal for your wrist ligament to snap in the middle? No, it snapped on the previous play.
I don't know, but all I know is that he's always hurt.
Wow. That's bleak.
He's a tough dude.
He is extremely tough. I don't want him to be injury prone. That's very sad.
No, me neither. No. Listen,
very sad.
Hey, producer Adam, can we clip the part where Denny goes, "Yeah, he's got a weak constitution. His body's frail. He shouldn't be in the NFL. He's a tough dude. No, I'm wrong. He's a tough dude." But I'm just saying, I've held up roughly as many seasons as he.
Right. Yeah. But he's tough. You got to hand it to him.
He really, no bit, he is very tough. And I know you, I think we all believe that, but it's very sad that he's out and our fantasy teams are weeping. The Chiefs are 6-point road favorites against the hot streaking Green Bay Packers. Denny, Jordan Love is playing the best football of his young career. Any chance it's Jover for you who have declared Jordan Love is not an NFL quarterback on 5 to 6 different occasions, frequently in public, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on the podcast. Where's your God now? Is Jordan Love actually good?
Look, I saw this in the notes, Pat, and I feel like either you were mistaking me for Kyle or mistaking me for yourself.
No. Pat is not. No.
Hold on. I declared him. I think I said he wouldn't be a starter in 2024.
Okay, well then maybe there's a mirror effect going on.
Oh,
here.
Denny liked him. That's right. I was trying to see my horrible.
Didn't you point out that he was like dead last in CPOE as of like 3 weeks ago?
No. Listen, I headed into the season. I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna be real good,
Right.
and then the numbers have been horrific. So I have since disowned him, but now I'm embracing him again.
I'm back to embracing him too. I'm also in on him. He's like I think 12th or 11th in EPA per play.
He had his best game of his career like 3 weeks in a row.
And he's just been so streaky. Like the beginning of the year, he had like 6 or 7 touchdowns with 1 interception in 3 games. Then he did the thing that we were afraid of and imploded. Now he's put the pieces back together again. And like 1, maybe he's like quote streaky, but 2, that's kind of just what variance looks like, especially for probably a high variance player. Also, like, not to be a film bro, you watch him, like, he looks fine. He's slinging it out there. He throws some pretty nice tight window throws.
Well, it's weird, but the film on Jordan Love, because I think that's why some people so confidently kind of declared him done or like not a legitimate prospect, because he makes some crazy tight window throws and then it's really inaccurate and not like the strongest arm. His arm has looked stronger since he's been more confident and he's been attempting more difficult throws. But he is just kind of an enigma, but an enigma who's playing by far the best football of his career.
Yeah.
But a really, really tough matchup now in the Chiefs.
Right. The Chiefs, unfortunately are a really, really difficult matchup. I mean, just to give you an idea about how well Jordan Love is playing. So over the past 3 weeks, Jordan Love has been graded by PFF as the sixth best passer in the league. That's not bad. So yeah, I think that you can probably start him. I mean, it's a tough week with buys and everything. So
I've got him inside the top.
We're talking. RotoPat invoked the name of Bryce Young as a potential stream.
Yeah,
you are
ecstatic.
Right.
Someone handed me a cue card that just said I had to do it.
Well, I'm sorry you're being held hostage in that case.
Yeah.
Well, I got producers in here. I mean,
I
think they drive rating. They were trying to get you to bury him. That's always very good for the ratings.
But for ratings, yeah, we love our ratings.
Bryce.
So that was just for the record here about the Packers offense recently. They have been 3% over their expected drop back rate over the past 2 weeks, which is significantly higher than it was before that. So they seem to be trusting Jordan Love more, and his ADOT is up. So I think that there is some level of like, okay, we're going to stop trying to hide our quarterback and let him do his thing. Whether that works against a really good Kansas City secondary, I don't know.
Well, their season was really on the ropes too. They had to try something different.
Yes.
It seemed like they kind of just opened up the offense a bit to see just what he could do. And it turns out he could do more than what we thought, but even than what the Packers thought, at least earlier this season. So speaking of the Packers passing attack, Kyle, is Christian Watson again the Packers' priority wideout? He's finally converting his goal line targets into touchdowns. He had a big play against the Lions on Thanksgiving Day, had almost 100 yards. It's a tough receiver core to predict, but are we ranking Christian Watson firmly ahead of Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs again?
Yeah, I mean, probably always should have been ranking him there in that on average, he will score more fantasy points. And on median, he won't because he's got an 18 ADOT. That's insane. He's got one of the highest ADOTs of any receiver. And also a ton of his deep targets have been contested, and he's not really a contested catch guy. And he's seen a ton of end zone targets, which are great. Those lead to touchdowns. Got to catch him. He hasn't caught them all until recently. So he is like up there with Calvin Ridley for the highest variance receivers you can possibly dream of. But that also means a really high ceiling. And especially as Jordan Love plays better, start to get a little more confident in Christian Watson. So I think we're ranking him ahead. You'll probably take your lumps, but there will be ceiling games for sure. Whereas a few weeks ago, I was a little skeptical we'd ever see a ceiling game, but I think we've stabilized.
Probably won't see one against the Chiefs. It's like the caveat we need to put out there. This is just a really tough defense. The Chiefs have to stop playing such good defense.
Yeah, it would be great.
They refuse to do that, but they're not playing that great of offense, Denny. Patrick Mahomes is doing everything he can to put the team on his back. Rashee Rice finally tried to help him out, even though he had two really bad drops. Rashee Rice had what you might call a breakout performance. But anything interesting going on with the Chiefs receivers beyond that? And is that transferable for Rashee Rice? I think it's a fairly tough Packers defense.
Yeah, Rice is still he doesn't have the route rate that we're looking for. 66% of the routes in week 12 against the Raiders. That's fine, but it's definitely, if it were in the 80 or 90% range, I would be way more excited for, his ability to sustain this sort of production. Also, we had, McCole Hardman out. We had Kadarius Toney out. We had Sky Moore with his knee wrapped on the sideline at one point. So it seemed like Rashee Rice and Justin Watson, and I guess MVS to an extent, were the only guys out there on a regular basis. He ran really hot. Rashee Rice did last week against Vegas, 42%. He was targeted on 42% of his routes. Obviously, that's way above his season-long rate. And if you look at like his expected fantasy points, like they're in the range of like Robert Woods and Tutu Atwell. He's good. Mahomes
he's really good.
Okay. I get a little hesitant about saying you got to pay him as like a wide receiver too.
Yeah, I mean, we've done this before. We saw like the first 2 weeks, his route rate spiked. He got in the end zone, got a little more target share, and we're like, oh, has he finally arrived? And they scaled the routes back because that's just what they've been doing with him all year. I think you're probably playing him this week because he's definitely the best receiver on the team.
He's a wide receiver 3 this week, but
yeah,
he's one where a rug pull is quite a possible outcome.
There is a possibility. The Chiefs are a very unserious regular season team. They're just trying. They're like an NBA. They're like an NBA team just trying to get into the postseason. And I do think that in the coming weeks, we might see a Chiefs team that's trying to like nail down their pass catching rotation. And so that could mean more routes and more opportunity for Rashee Rice.
Man, they really are. The Chiefs, by the way, are happy to announce they've just won the first in-season tournament.
Yeah, right.
That joke didn't even make any sense because we were saying they don't take the regular season.
I was going to say the Chiefs would be the team that like loses to the Hornets in their whatever the like opening round of the whatever tournament.
The Chiefs let Rudy Gobert score 38 points on them. No offense to Rudy Gobert. It was a great trade. It was a great trade, Minnesota. The Chargers are 6-point road favorites against an absolutely flailing Patriots squad. Kyle, what might we expect from Justin Herbert and the Bolts' passing attack this week? They've been kind of struggling amidst their personnel issues.
Lots of short passes, just like we saw last year when they bled talent in terms of injuries. They just couldn't keep everyone healthy. Shocker. It happens to them every year. It's happening to them again. And we've seen Justin Herbert's ADOT just completely plummet by about 2 yards, dropping him from like a top 5 player in terms of his target depth to like outside the top 20 ever since they lost Josh Palmer. So it actually hasn't been terrible for the offense. He's top 10 in EPA per play. He's got a solid PFF passing grade, but it just means this is once again the PPR team. And as far as like their actual win games prospects, it goes down now that they're not throwing deep as often as they used to or successfully, but we still know who we're starting and starting them as like Austin Eckler, RB1, more so based on role at this point, but it's a good one. And Keenan Allen, legitimately very good wide receiver 1.
Denny, on the other side, we don't know the Patriots quarterback's going to be. We know it makes no difference whatsoever. Check out Galaxy Brains, though, on what it could mean that the Patriots refuse to announce their starting quarterback. What is the Ramondre Stevenson outlook? He's finally getting the volume we expected. It didn't make sense. Should have been 20 carries, 25 touches all season long with how bad these quarterbacks are, how bad the Patriots receiving personnel is. But what is his outlook against a Chargers defense that's really bad overall, was horrible against the run last year, is worse against the pass this year, is tightened up against a bit against the run. Mm-hmm. What is the Stevenson Week 13 outlook?
All of Stevenson's rushing metrics are down bad this year. Like, I mean, real tough with looking at like year over year stuff. So, you know, I don't really think we can count or bank on him being efficient. Now, the avenue for his fantasy relevance is through the pass game. But the thing is, like last week, he only ran 55% of the routes. He was targeted 6 times. He caught all 6, or I'm sorry, 5 of 5. Anyway, I think he's a decent floor option. And I guess maybe an RB3, but like Zeke's not going away. I don't know. I also,
he's in the top 20 this week, I will say, in Ramondre Stevenson. Kind of just because I don't think the Chargers can really blow them out. I think we have finally seen a volume. We've seen a volume commitment to the entire Patriots.
That's true. That's true about the Chargers can't blow out anyone. So that's right.
It's insane.
It's crazy that when the Chargers signed a contract for their new stadium, they got that every one of their games has to be within 3 points with 2 minutes left on the clock. So no, they can't blow out anyone. I will say it was a bad clause. I understand that they needed being kind of a loose term, the money, but man, it is crazy that they snuck that one in there, and especially to not have the most fans in their stadiums. I will say,
do you have any fans in their stadiums? But we digress.
I don't want to go that far, but it's not wrong. I will say Stevenson coming off of a season high in snap share, a season high in carry share, and still strong route rates. They're definitely doing away with the Zeke thing. Are they cutting him out of the lineup? No, they'll never do that. We'll never be that lucky. But we're trending in the right direction with Stevenson. Offense is probably bad. He's not going to get in the end zone very much, but it's not bad.
Is it Jover for Eckler? Eckler not catching as many passes as we need him to. Really inefficient on the ground. Suddenly can't stop fumbling. He's, of course, looking slow. But, I mean, I don't know. And then on the other hand, how do you keep him out of the top 12 against the Patriots? What was the Austin Eckler temperature in this room right
now? Just touches. I mean,
he's still getting a lot of targets. He's not doing like the 12 target thing, but over the past 5 games, he's averaging 6 targets a game. That'd be near, if not highest in the NFL over the full course of a season, plus 14 carries per game. But as you pointed out, these are volume numbers. They help for our fantasy points, but efficiency wise, he's not the Eckler we've been used to.
No. No, at all. It's very sad. But I don't. Why is he not catching 9 to 10 passes a game? By the way, I guess maybe they don't think he's explosive right now in the checkdowns, and that it's just like too much of a true 4 to 5 yard check down.
Yeah, his target per route run is like really, really low compared to what it was last year and the year before.
I wonder if
I do think it's probably a testament to the offense that when they lose the receivers, they're not saying, let's do de facto runs to Eckler. They're like, no, Keenan Allen targets, even when everyone knows Keenan Allen is getting a target, are still better than Austin Eckler targets. Not even as an indictment of Eckler, but like the Austin Eckler target on average is coming at like 0.8 yards downfield. Whereas if Keenan Allen is even remotely open, that is just a more efficient way to move the ball downfield if it's to a receiver, let alone Keenan Allen, than a less than usually explosive Austin Eckler 0.88 target.
Would have been amazing if Josh Palmer returned this week. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it seems like there's no indication that he will return, even though he's eligible.
Probably closer to done for this year. I think Brandon Staley said earlier this week that it doesn't look like he's coming back particularly soon.
I was wondering if that was like a spectacular case of coach speak, but it definitely seems like he's not coming back this week. So
yeah, not this week. Like it's we're weeks out.
If you were hanging your hat on that, yes, please move your hat.
Please enjoy the consolation bracket.
Yes, exactly. The final game of the day, the Tampa Bay Bucks are 5-point home favorites against the Panthers. Denny, can we stream Baker Mayfield, or do the Panthers do too good of a job limiting big play? I don't know why I'm asking about streaming Baker Mayfield. Who cares?
Pat, wait till you hear my answer to the next question you ask me. You're gonna love it.
All right, whatever. What's going on, Baker?
whatever. I actually think this is the one game where the Bucks could actually establish it because Carolina's run defense is that bad. They are the 8th most pronounced run funnel on the season. They're allowing the 4th most missed tackles per rush this year. Like, they're pretty bad. So it's probably Rachaad White season for sure. I don't know. Baker, I guess, is probably better than like, I don't know.
Ben Russ.
Maybe Minshew?
I mean, they're all Derek Carr, Baker, Minshew, and Russell Wilson are all just kind of bunched up this week.
Right.
Where I don't really know. You might need your own secret method for how to separate them, but they are really, really bunched up in like the high end QB2 rankings this week. And players that people are going to have to start because of how dire the bye week situation is. But yeah, man, the Panthers. The one thing they do well as a defense is limit big plays. They allow 1 trillion points every week. Even the Cowboys could not get big plays against them.
Yeah.
And I do wonder about streaming Baker Mayfield in those circumstances. And Baker Mayfield, it seems like he has no difference between his floor and his ceiling. He hits his floor every week. And his floor is just
it is similar. I just so folks know, like I have Derek Carr and Mayfield in a league, and I'm starting Carr.
What about if Olave doesn't play though?
Definitely not if Olave doesn't play, dude. He's throwing to like Keith Kirkwood or something. No.
Right.
Juwan
yeah,
Johnson.
You're probably right. Yeah, gosh, wow. If Olave doesn't play, we are talking 20 touches for Taysom.
Oh, so many. I mean, we're already probably getting a good Taysom game because obviously Shaheed looks unlikely to play. Olave's not going to be practicing in full almost until at least Friday, you'd imagine. No Michael Thomas, obviously. Taysom's like a great play this week.
A giga play. You may say.
It's 1:03 p.m. and I'm typing trillion yard Taysom Tutter. Unless they play at 4 o'clock.
No, you know how it goes in fantasy football. You'll say trillion yard Taysom gain, no tutty.
Yeah, right.
2 plays later, Jamal Williams.
And it was really a 31-yard rush.
Yeah,
also,
it is so hard to parse. Like who's saying this? Is it actually long? How much does this person usually exaggerate? And why did they not say if it was receiving or not?
That's right.
They're supposed to announce
on running back receptions. Those you got to say
in the group chat. You got to announce whether it's a rushing or receiving touchdown. Kyle, the final question of the show. Yeah. Any Bryce Young hope against the ultimate Bucks pass funnel? What changes might we see without Frank Reich this week?
I said earlier, like 2 minutes ago, you're going to love my answer. Who cares? Like,
yeah, it's
maybe worse receiving core in the NFL, maybe worse offensive line in the NFL. Even when Bryce plays well, I think he played fine last week. He had some really nice tight window throws. I believe everyone's seen the clip of, I think it's Jonathan Mingo, which sucks if I remember correctly.
It was Jonathan Mingo.
A really nice, like outside. I think it's like a bootleg play. Bryce rolls to his right, throws a dart to Mingo at the sideline. Mingo just needs to extend his hands and catch it both feet in bounds. Plenty of room to do so. His legs are shot off a springboard.
It looked like he got caught in a water spout or something.
Yeah, exactly. Some mystical force shot his legs way past where his body was, and he flew out of bounds attempting to catch it. One of the worst catch attempts I've ever seen in my life.
It was so weird. It was so weird looking.
So no, the answer is, I guess one thing. Sorry, we didn't get sidetracked. That's the point of this, is that like, why would you care? The one thing I'll point out is that Adam Thielen is getting covered more successfully in terms of the ESPN's receiver tracking metrics. His open score, just his ability to open, is plummeting over the past 5 weeks. His number of catches that PFF deems him to be open on is plummeting, and overall his production is falling off. I think teams.
Other than that, that was looking pretty like a good play this week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? Please,
Right.
Why do you care about Bryce Young so much?
I don't care about Bryce Young at all. I care about Adam Thielen though.
He's terrible play. Terrible play.
Man, Thielen or Garrett Wilson?
Garrett Wilson.
What? Garrett Wilson? Come on.
Hold on. Did I see the same game you saw? Who cares if you catch 7 passes if it's Tim Boyle? It was like for like 38 yards.
How did you?
Tim Boyle is better than Bryce Young.
Yes.
How many catches do you think Adam Thielen had last week? Take a guess.
He had one. No, you don't need to guess. I know it was one.
We all know.
You think I need to guess that? Think I need to guess that when the bank's here again?
Why is the bank?
And he's got a clipboard and glasses and a suit that's too long, and he's telling me again that I know that Adam Thielen had 1 catch. Yeah, I know. You think I don't know? You think my kids don't know when they're crying? I was trying to land. It couldn't really land that.
Oh man,
I felt like it landed.
It is.
I don't. You don't think? You think my kids don't know? That landed it for me. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
If you think you play in a high stakes best ball league, you have not played in the high stakes best ball league. The bank comes to claim his home every time Adam Thielen has a down game.
You think playing in a guillotine league is fun? Try playing in a literal guillotine league. They're raising the blade right now for Pat.
I'm in the Fantasy Football Happy Hour Guillotine League this week for the Championship Showdown with Mr. Lawrence Jackson. Of course, friggin' Josh Allen's on bye. But the Guillotine League, should I start Dak Prescott or Patrick Mahomes?
Dak.
I added Dak specifically I think I'm going to go Dak.
Nice.
But I got to end the show. Thank you so much if you've been listening with us. We truly love to have you aboard. Sticking with us all year. Week 13, we are now in crunch time. A lot of good stuff on the site for you as we do every week. Denny's funnel report is now weekly. The regression files are out. Start 'em, sit 'em will be out from Kyle. Kyle's 32 facts are out. It's 26 facts this week. My rankings are out. They'll be updated. Denny's chatting on Friday. So for Kyle, for Denny, I'm Pat. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back later.